Why American tankers preferred their death trap Sherman over captured German superior Panthers. When most people think of World War II tanks, two names dominate the conversation: the American M4 Sherman and the German Panther. On paper, the Panzer, a sleek, heavily armored, powerfully armed medium tank introduced in 1943, seemed vastly superior to the Sherman, which was lighter, less armored, and armed with a modest 75mm or 76mm gun. Yet, despite this apparent technological gap, US tank crews often chose to stick with their Shermans, even when functional German Panthers were available on the battlefield. To outsiders, this seemed irrational. Why reject a superior tank? But for the men who fought in them, the answer was clear. Battlefield effectiveness wasn't just about firepower or armor thickness. It was about reliability, mobility, logistics, and survivability in real combat conditions. This preference wasn't born of ignorance or blind patriotism. It was the result of hard-won experience in the mud, snow, and chaos of the European theater. And contrary to popular myth, American tankers didn't call the Sherman a death trap nearly as often as post-war critics did. In fact, US Army surveys and after-action reports reveal a surprising truth. Many crews trusted their Shermans more than captured Panthers, and for very good reasons. The Panther's paper superiority. The Panzer V was indeed an impressive machine. Weighing around 45 tons, it mounted a high-velocity 75mm KWK. WK-42 LAN 70, gun capable of penetrating the Sherman's frontal armor at ranges exceeding 2,000 meters. Its sloped frontal armor, 80mm at 55 degrees, offered excellent protection against most Allied tank and anti-tank guns. Introduced at the Battle of Kursk in 1943, the Panther was designed as a direct response to the Soviet T-34 and quickly became the backbone of Germany's late-war armored forces. By contrast, the standard M4 Sherman weighed about 30 to 35 tons and initially carried a short-barreled 75mm M3 gun, effective against infantry and light fortifications but outmatched by German tanks at long range. Even the later 76mm Shermans struggled to penetrate the Panther's front hull beyond 800 meters. On these specs alone, the Panther looked like the ultimate tank. But paper doesn't win wars. In combat, however, the Panthers suffered from crippling flaws, many of them rooted in German wartime production pressures and over-engineering US intelligence and frontline. Units quickly learned that captured Panthers were more trouble than they were worth. 1. Mechanical unreliability. The Panther's Maybach HL-230 engine and complex transmission were prone to breakdowns. According to US Army Ordnance reports, the Panther's average operational range before major mechanical failure was only about 100 to 150 kilometers. On roads and far less final drives, in particular, were notoriously weak. German maintenance crews often had to replace them after just 150 kilometers of use. In the rapid advances of 1944 to 45, US forces simply couldn't afford tanks that broke down every few dozen miles. By comparison, the Sherman was famously reliable, powered by a robust radial gasoline engine or later, a Ford V8 or diesel. It could travel over 160 kilometers cross-country without major issues and had a road range of up to 200 kilometers. More importantly, when Shermans did break down, they were easy to repair in the field. Spare parts were abundant, and maintenance crews were trained on a standardized platform used by all Allied forces. 2. Logistical nightmare. Captured Panthers created massive logistical problems. They required different fuel, though both used gasoline. Consumption rates differed. Unique ammunition, 75mm quick 42 rounds were not interchangeable with US 75mm or 76mm shells, and specialized tools and spare parts that simply didn't exist in American supply chains. US tank units operated on a principle of standardization. Every Sherman used the same parts, same ammo, same recovery procedures. Introducing a foreign tank, even a powerful one, disrupted this system. The US Army did experiment with using captured German vehicles under the Foreign Equipment Program, but these were typically used for reconnaissance, training, or static defense, not frontline combat. A famous example is the 2nd Armored Division's brief use of a Panther in Normandy. but it was abandoned after 2 days due to mechanical failure and lack of spare parts. 3. Poor ergonomics and crew safety. Despite its firepower, the Panther was a cramped, poorly laid out tank. The turret was so tightly packed that the loader had minimal room to operate, slowing the rate of fire. The commander's visibility was limited, and the tank lacked a turret basket, making coordination difficult. Worse, the Panther used gasoline engines and stored fuel and ammunition in ways that increased the risk of catastrophic fires. When hit though not as notoriously as the early war Sherman, more on that below. The Sherman, by contrast, had excellent ergonomics. It featured a turret basket, good visibility especially with the later vision cupola, and a well-organized interior. Crews could operate efficiently even under stress, and while early Shermans had a reputation for burning, when hit turning the grim nickname Ronson after the lighter slogan light's first time. Every time, this was largely mitigated by 1944. 4. The myth of the burning Sherman. The idea that Shermans were death traps is one of the most persistent myths of World War II armor. In reality, U.S. Army studies showed that Sherman crews had a higher survival rate than crews in German tanks. A 1945 U.S. Army study of tank casualties in the European theater found that 65% of Sherman crewmen survived being knocked out, compared to only 45% in Panthers and 35% in Tigers. Why? Several factors. The Sherman's wet ammunition stowage, introduced in mid-1944, dramatically reduced the chance of fire by surrounding ammo racks with water glycol jackets. Its gasoline engines, while flammable, burn more slowly than the myth suggests, unlike diesel, which doesn't ignite easily, but creates thick, suffocating smoke when it does. Most importantly, the Sherman's lighter weight and simpler construction meant that hits were less likely to cause catastrophic structural failure. German tanks, with their heavy armor and dense internal layouts, often trapped crews when penetrated. As Sergeant Charles Bailey of the 4th Armored Division put it, "I'd rather be in a Sherman that gets hit and lets me walk away than a Panther that kills me when it's hit once." 5. Tactical mobility and strategic flexibility. The Sherman's lighter weight, 30 to 35 tons, vs Panther's 45, gave it critical advantages in mobility. It could cross more bridges, traverse softer ground, and be transported more easily by rail or landing craft. During the breakout from Normandy and the rapid advance across France in 19, U.S. armored divisions covered 30 to 50 miles per day speeds, impossible for German units hampered by broken-down Panthers. Moreover, the U.S. doctrine emphasized combined arms warfare. Tanks worked with infantry, artillery, tank destroyers, and air support. They weren't expected to duel enemy tanks head-on. That was the job of specialized tank. Destroyers like the M10 or M18 helped. The Sherman's role was infantry support, exploitation, and rapid maneuver. In that context, reliability and numbers mattered more than one-on-one superiority. And numbers were decisive. The US built over 49,000 M4 Shermans during the war. Germany built only about 6,000 Panthers, and many never reached the front due to bombing, transport losses, or mechanical failure en route. At the Battle of the Bulge, for example, German armored units started with fewer than 20 operational Panthers per division. Many broke down before seeing combat. Real-world crew testimony. Official U.S. military surveys confirm crew preferences. A 1945 questionnaire by the U.S. Army's Advanced Infantry School asked tankers whether they'd prefer to fight in a captured Panther. The overwhelming majority said no. Reasons cited included fear of mechanical breakdown, inability to get parts, difficulty operating the unfamiliar controls, and concern about being mistaken for the enemy and fired upon by Allied forces. There are almost no documented cases of U.S. units using Panthers in sustained combat. The few instances, like a single Panther briefly used by the 3rd Armored Division in March 1945, vented quickly due to mechanical failure or lack of ammunition. Even German crews, when interviewed after the war, admitted the Panther's flaws. General Lassobon Manteuffel, a skilled Panzer commander, called the Panther a beautiful but sickly child. He noted that in the crucial battles of 1944-45, more Panthers were lost to breakdowns than to enemy fire. Conclusion: superiority is contextual. The Panther was, in many ways, a marvel of engineering. A tank that pushed the limits of 1940s technology. But war isn't fought on paper. It's fought in rain-soaked fields, on crumbling roads, under artillery fire, with limited supplies and exhausted crews. In that reality, the M4 Sherman wasn't just good enough. It was optimized for actual warfare. American tankers didn't reject the Panther out of pride or ignorance. They rejected it because they understood that a tank's value isn't measured solely by its gun or armor, but by its ability to keep moving, keep fighting, and keep its crew alive. The Sherman excelled in all three. It was reliable, repairable, logistically sustainable, and tactically flexible. Most importantly, it brought its crews home, as historian Stephen Zaloga aptly summarized. The Sherman won the war not because it was the best tank, but because it was the right tank at the right time, in the right numbers, with the right support. In the end, the men who climbed into those steel holes every morning didn't need a superior tank. They needed a tank they could trust, and for all its flaws, the Sherman earned that trust one muddy mile at a time.